I like to do a long lead into a question, so let me do. I don't know how to do a short one. Let me connect up a couple of things, and I want to get your reflections on it. So, um, I in my academic studies before becoming a pastor, it was in the late 90s, early noughties in the UK. What do you call them? The 2000s. The 2000s. I'll call them the 2000s. The word noughties though seems it's just quite funny, isn't it? In
Yeah.
the early noughties.
It's Gen Z, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I'm
It's
not. I'm
Gen.
born in 1976. I don't know. I'm not Gen Z. Am I? What am I? I don't know.
No, I think Gen Z is post
Is it? I've
2000.
never known
I'm not
what
sure.
my generational postcode is. I don't know what the thing. Anyway,
Yeah, or is it millennium? Because the millennium is
yeah,
2000. We're
but
in the now in the
isn't that somebody who was
millennium.
born at the millennium? Anyway, my point was this:
I don't know.
the academic environment I was in was very was influenced by Michel Foucault, folks you might call kind of neo-Marxists, though how much of a Marxist he thought himself as, I don't know. But one of the themes was that politics, that all life is political, because the basics of life is power dynamics, and when you buy into that idea, then everything becomes political. Politics is life. It's not a part of life. It's not about what we're going to do about local finances in the public square, and how we're going to sort out the drains. Like everything becomes political, right? So, and that's where the identity politics and identitarian stuff sort of comes from. It's that with a political agenda. Now, I'm wondering if there is a connection um, between that idea that there is that all of life is essentially political, and then we go forward to try and manage life as power dynamics in every context. And here's my idea, and theonomy. Because what I've seen in the theonomist world is, and some books, even by some Reformed Baptist or people who would say they're Calvinistic Baptists, is an attempt to say, let's first of all set out what politics is, and go. I mean, there's one book that was doing the rounds a few years ago that actually tried to claim that first of all we need to do God is politics in Himself, and it appealed to a sort of basically a social Trinitarian approach, that there's authority in the Godhead, so it's EFS, and so there's God is politics, and so then it bought into the idea that therefore all is politics in some kind of way, and then what comes with that is the idea that you have to think God first, not just God as first cause, but God as triune, and then you will be able to go out into the political world, which is now kind of everything, and see clearly how to do statecraft. And it strikes me that modern theonomy, and I don't know what its history is, but modern theonomy makes some parallel moves to the all is politics that comes from some radical left wingers. I don't know. Any thoughts on any of that?
Yeah, I mean, I totally think you're onto something there, because the theonomist mindset is we have the Bible and it is sufficient. They'll say it has to be sufficient for all of life, which is not what we confess in our Reformed confessions. We say that the Word of God is sufficient for life and godliness, but it's actually not given to be sufficient for everything. We have natural revelation as well, general revelation, and the light of nature, and which is of course human reason. And so, so theonomists approach the scriptures, and they think that if they can discern and deduce a totalistic theology in their minds first, that they can uh, draw down from that the answers to everything else in this world, and that's not what the Bible's given for. And the parallel is exactly right to Marxism, which says, that we have this idealistic system and it's power and power dynamics, and it's the distribution of wealth and social power if you're the neo-Marxist, and that we can deduce all political answers from that idea. So it is this. So theonomy, I do think, shares with Marxism kind of an idealism that that is, I think it puts a lot of stock in what the human mind can understand holistically. It's in the end, it strikes me as sort of proud, because you're not really in a posture of learning there.
Mm.
You've already found the ultimate answers to everything. You just have to figure out how they all apply, instead of what I think is a classical position, which is there are certain transcendent norms and realities that we need to hold to, that the Bible and nature does reveal. But then we're in a posture of learning. We have to figure out how things work, and things are changing, and it's okay to not know everything, and to have and to explore and to grow in wisdom, which is more of an empirical approach, that says, let's see what happens. Let's look at what did happen in the past. Let's try to work this out, and with the big principles still in place. And so, I think you're exactly right, that there's something similar between those two.
I,
Sadly.
I wonder if I sort of detect the symptoms of it. We're all familiar with the kind of the woke agenda now, but part of the idea of woke is the idea of awakening to something, to an insight that then I can see everything by some kind of moment of the idea, the pure idea of my situation clicking. And it's almost gnostic, right? I've got this special insight now into how the whole world works, and I've got to help other people wake up and be woke to the power dynamics or something like that. And there's something in the presuppositional theonomist thing that is a parallel to that. That what we need people is they won't use the word woke, but there is a perspectivalism, a kind of, I must come to an idea which will, as if sort of magically illuminate in an insight moment my way into the world, and I need to help other people awaken to this organizing thought that everything will kind of, and it doesn't surprise me. Or here's what my prediction would be, that some folks who press on that view will end up starting to, without realizing it, um, say some things that are a little bit woke, in fact. You might start to get some shifts in, because the primary sin would be not thinking right, right?
Hmm.
So uh, um, so the solution then becomes thinking differently. Just the primary sin in a neo-Marxist woke kind of situation is not having the insight that you are an oppressor category. But then sin in a radical presuppositionalist theonomist kind of perspective, really in the end comes down to not having the right beginning idea in some kind of way. And I just wonder if we might see, as things start to ideas have consequences, and they start to, we might find people struggling in that model to actually properly engage with and answer the woke ideology, because what you've got is two perspectives arguing rather than anyone appealing to what is a given in the world. And when you get two perspectives arguing, you get what C.S. Lewis referred to as propaganda. You no longer train people to discover the real things, the given things, the natural law, and then to come to God's special revelation. You don't propagate, in that sense, grow people in how the world is. You propagandize people in the persuasiveness of your perspective, because all you have is perspective. So you have a fight between two. What's the starting idea? Marxist wokery, or start with Jesus? And that they actually end up becoming mirror images of each other, and the way in which the knowledge kind of organizes itself starts to unfold in the same kind of way. That's anyway. There's an idea for you. I don't know. There's not a question there. It's just a thought that I ran with.
I think you're right, because in the end, if you apply, theonomy is presuppositional, and the early presuppositionalists all talked about an antithesis. You have Christians and non-Christians, which is true, but they applied that to the realm of thought. You either think Christianly or you don't. And if you think Christianly, then you have the starting point for all the answers in the world. But how do you get to that starting point? You can make arguments for it to become a Christian, and yet in the end, it's just based on the authority of Scripture. And so I think you're right. You're going to have theonomists counterpointing to the Marxists, and all that. The only way to get through the disagreement is just power. There's no way to reason with each other, because um, it's just a matter of authority and starting points, and that's really scary, that there's no way to talk to each other. But there is, through nature.
Mm,
There is common grace, there is natural law. We all have the light of common reason that we can use as we discuss with each other. um, Now, I don't believe pagans are consistent, so I would agree with the presuppositionalists in that
mm,
regard, that total philosophical
Mm.
consistency is only in the mind of God, first of all, but would it requires the right starting point. I think they're right, but unbelievers are inconsistent all the time, and we shouldn't just argue with them on the basis of just pure authority, but we can reason with them, and we shouldn't give that up. But I think there's an impulse to do exactly that now. It's like, well, they're beyond reason. The woke, you can't reason with them. They won't listen to reason. So the only way to fight the woke is with pure authority and power. But I do think you have to bring in authority at certain levels. I mean, you should stop murder with power. You should and reason, but power. You should protect life, with power. But the answer to everything isn't power. We have to keep reasoning with them. So